the thing that I realized, and I was terrible at when I first opened the car wash, was you have to be really good operationally. So you have to really have your processes and procedures and your standard and your training and all these things down. Because if you don't, and you think, well, I just opened the car wash and how hard can it be? Which was kind of the way I thought about it for years. And there was a lot of people who were very interested in car washing. But here recently, you get people who want to invest. So you got a big pool of people who just want to invest in car washing. And so it kind of became a passion of mine to say, how can we help car washes operate really well? Because there is a big difference between car washes that operate well and car washes that don't.
The following is brought to you by Thryv, the end-to-end client experience platform that helps you get the job, manage the job, and get credit.
Hey, this is Gordon Henry at Winning on Main Street, and this week you get to meet David Begin. David entered the car wash market in 2006. He served on the board of the Rocky Mountain Car Wash Association and was their president in 2011, joined the board of the International Car Wash Association, became their president in 2017. He sold his car washes in August of 2019 and started Begin Insights, his own car wash consulting coaching business geared towards new investors, current owners, private equity firms looking to start and improve their operations. He's also the host of the popular podcast series Car Wash the Podcast, so you can check him out on that. And he focuses in his podcast on the professional car wash industry. And he produces a video series called The Manager's Minute, sharing advice on how to manage a professional car wash. So welcome, David.
Thanks for having me, Gordon. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so really excited to learn all about the car wash business. So you weren't always in the car wash business. Give us a quick story on your background and how you got into the car wash business.
Yeah, I was in high technology. So I finished at college, worked for the city of Lubbock for a bit, then got into high technology selling application software and did that for a long time, probably did it for 10 or 15 years. And my kids were getting into high school and I felt like, gosh, I'm just missing out on a lot of their lives. So I had this romantic notion of being a small business owner in the town that I lived in, so I wouldn't have to travel much, and thought about a couple different industries. And then literally the most amount of time I put into car washing was, hey, this car washing thing looks good. I had to think about that. And so I'd like to think I did a lot more research. I actually did do a lot of research. I got with some great people in the car wash industry and worked through a lot of the things that you need to think about when you open a car wash. But we spent about 5 years doing that. And we opened our first car wash in 2006. And I actually kept my day job for a couple of years until we opened our second car wash. Wanted to make sure we could still pay the bills. And I think the bank liked the fact that I still kept my day job, and then decided to manage the car washes at that point full time. And so we started that in 2006 and we exited ownership, at least for now, in 2019. So it was a great ride.
That is quite a story. So I understand you wanted to get off the road from traveling for your corporate job and move into something more entrepreneurial where you didn't have to travel as much, could stay in your hometown. That all makes sense. But how did you pick car washes?
I liked car washing. I went to car washes. I was always fascinated with what car washes did. I kind of fell under the illusion, like a lot of new investors in the car wash industry fell under, with like, this is a really easy business. It doesn't take much work. It's a passive income business. I think we learned pretty quickly that it was none of those things. But I just thought car washing was pretty cool. I had a lot of equipment, guys like equipment, and there are a lot of women that are great in car washing as well. But we just like to see things move around. We like to see our cars go through the tunnel, and we wonder how it does all those things. And so that was kind of the attraction to it. And also our market here in Colorado Springs felt underserved at the time. It had just gone through a pretty large growth spurt, and there wasn't a lot of people getting into the car wash industry at the time. So that was kind of the other impetus that we had to think about getting into the car wash business.
Okay. Now, I know you love technology because your background was actually on the sales side of technology business. So you're really into technology, and we here at Winning on Main Street are really into technology. So I wanted to ask you about that side of it. It seems that you see car washes as technology intensive, or there's a big technology opportunity. in car washes, which probably most of us wouldn't have thought just kind of being consumers. Tell us about the technology side of this business.
Yeah, it's a really operationally intensive business. So when I try to explain to people what it is, it's like you're building a factory, and the factory is designed to wash cars. The beauty as an owner, a lot of people go into business where they're actually doing the work. But the cool thing about car washing is you're not washing the car yourself necessarily. You're either getting a team of people or you're letting the car wash do it. So there's a lot of technology involved in making sure the equipment comes on at the right time. Certain equipment doesn't come on for certain cars, but comes on other cars. Also, the point of sale technology has gotten much better in the last 10 or 15 years. I think one reason why a lot of institutional investors and banks were a little hesitant to loan to car washing is there wasn't a lot of history, because there wasn't a lot of good information that people could give about the history of car washing, whether it made money or didn't make money. And so now with the advent of what we call pay stations, so if you go to car washes nowadays, typically you drive up to a pay station, which takes your order. And then there's a good point of sale system, which tracks all the information, tracks the cash that goes into the system. And then it passes it off to what I call a process control system. And the process control system tells the car wash equipment how long your car is and which package you bought. So it knows when to intelligently turn on the equipment, which equipment to turn on, what types of soaps and waxes you get. And so, yeah, it's very much an automated business. And nowadays, what we're seeing with the advent of RFID technology and license plate recognition that's embedded in car washing, we're getting to know our customer better. That was one of the main issues we had with this Exterior Express model. It was very difficult for us to get to know our customer and what their habits were. And so now that technology is getting much better. And you're seeing car wash equipment get much better too. It's also sensing things on cars. So it's turning things on and turning things off depending on what the equipment is sensing in the tunnel, which is cool. So it's getting better and better. It's getting more exciting. And you're right, Gordon, I'm a huge fan of technology. I always get accused by all my friends and family that I'm the guy that buys the first one, and then everybody gets the things that I toss aside, which are still relatively new. But yeah, I love technology. I love what technology does for us and how it kind of solves our problems.
Yep, you're an early adopter. That's what we call you in the
exactly
trade,
right.
You're an early adopter.
I am an early adopter.
So let's talk a little bit more about getting to know your customers. Our parent company, Thryv, we make a CRM to help small businesses better know their customers. And so we're pretty familiar with the topic. We think it's really pretty critical for small businesses to do. So it sounds like using the license plate technology and maybe credit card, I don't know, some other things, you do get to know your customers. So how do you then use technology or marketing automation to communicate with your customers and keep them coming back?
Yeah, so now we ask our customers for a bit of information. And what's unique about a car wash is you have thousands and thousands of customers. Your customer base is really large, but your ticket average is really small. So you're typically talking in the neighborhood between $5 and $15 as an average purchase. So, getting to know their habits, how often they're coming, when are they coming? Are they a good candidate for what we call the unlimited program? So something that's really exploded in the last 3 to 5 years in the car wash business is the unlimited club, where you can sign up for one low price and wash your car as much as you can. And that's really helped solve a lot of issues that we had in the car wash business as far as seasonality of people washing their car, not making any money. If you got into a period where there was a lot of snow or a lot of rain, it kind of evened out the revenue streams. But getting to know their habits, getting to know when they're about to churn. So that's a big thing with unlimited programs just about anywhere, is how do you anticipate when your customer might leave you? And so how do you market to them through text messaging or other ways you can, and then how do you reward loyalty? So if your customer has been a customer for 6 or 12 months, what can you do for them to appreciate their loyalty and keep them coming back?
Very interesting. Here at Winning on Main Street, we like to get into the numbers a little bit. I'd love to go through the numbers in the car wash business with you. So like if you're, as you were, somebody who's thinking about buying a car wash, what is the typical car wash? And there's probably not a typical, but if you could say typical, what do they cost to buy? What's the volume of cars coming through? What's the typical revenue? How long is the payback period? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I can walk you through that. And it was much different 10 years ago and 15 years ago when I first started, because the model that most people are building right now was relatively new about 15 years ago. It actually came from Europe. There was some operators in Europe doing what's called exterior express car washing. And I kind of equate it to the fast casual in the restaurant business, where people are kind of developing a hybrid between a takeout and a restaurant. The exterior express model is kind of a fast casual model. Most of us were familiar growing up with full service car washes. So you got out of your car, an attendant vacuumed the car for you, and then they put it on the conveyor and had to go through the car wash. They'd grab it before it got off the conveyor. They would dry it for you. And 30 minutes later, you'd be in your car going off. So it was actually an event you had to do typically on Saturday morning to get your car washed. But what's kind of happened now is we kind of make the customer part of the process. So they go up, they choose the watch they want, or they are a club member. So then there's automated gates that get them in line. They stay in their cars, they go through the tunnel. And then at the end of the period, if they're exterior express car wash, they can either vacuum themselves. So you probably have seen those car washes that have these big vacuum parking lots where people can go and vacuum their car. They can vacuum if they want, they can dry their car if they want, or probably about half the people just drive off. So that particular model has a much lower labor component to it. It's got a much higher throughput, so you can wash hundreds of cars an hour as opposed to just a few cars. You're not dependent on 30 or 50 people to vacuum or dry the cars. And the thing I like about the exterior express model is it gives people a consistent experience. And so that, I would say probably 8 out of 10 car washes today that are being built are exterior express. There is the self-serve in-bay automatic. So, if you're in a smaller town, you might see the self-serve wand car washes. Most of us grew up and are familiar with those type of car washes as well. And if we didn't want to go to the tunnel on Saturday morning, we'd find one of these self-serve car washes and we would spray it off ourselves. And there might be an in-bay automatic unit in there. So you drive your car up to it, park it, and the equipment actually goes around your car. The advantage of that is, you can get a pretty good car wash with in-bay automatic. The disadvantage, it takes about 5 minutes per car. So, you're only washing 12 to 15 cars an hour in that particular model. So, most people are kind of moving toward this exterior express model. Land is really the big cost differentiator nowadays. You can build a car wash for probably $2.5 to $3 million without the land. And then depending on where you put the land, it can be anywhere between $500,000 for an acre. You look for about an acre, a little less, a little more, depending on what you're doing. But, really inexpensive piece of land would be about $500,000. It can go up to 2 to 3 million, depending on where you're putting it. So it's a pretty good investment. You're talking minimum 3.5 million. And I've seen guys, even in our town here in Colorado, have built $9 or $10 million projects. Now you got to wash a lot of cars to make that pay for itself. And then, it depends on the length of your tunnel will determine your volume. So if you've got a 150-foot belt or conveyor, you can wash about 160 cars per hour. If your belt is 80 feet, you can wash about 80 or 90 cars. So the longer it is, the more cars you can wash because you can put them through quicker because you have a lot more equipment. So that's a big variable. Your pricing is a big variable. Most car washes now have between 3 and 5 different packages you can buy if you're just buying what I call a paid wash. But we really try to encourage people to join the Unlimited Club, which gives you a consistent revenue. Most of those unlimited clubs, if you wash your car more than 2 times, you can actually pay for itself. So, you've got some people are washing every day. Some people wash once a month. So you sort of average that out and try to figure out how much money you're making. But that's been good. So the revenues can be anywhere between $500,000 and $3 million, depending on your volume and depending on how well you're doing in your unlimited club. Margins are really good in the car wash business. They're not as good as when I started, and they're probably not as good as they were 5 years ago, just because there's a lot of institutional investing that's getting in car washing. And so we're starting to see a lot more car washes up all over town, and the building is super strong right now. The market is really, in the car wash industry, is really moving at a strong pace. And like everything else, we don't know when that's going to end, but somebody's going to build one too many car washes and that's going to be the end of it. But I think we still have 3 to 5 years before that happens. But what's happening is people are dividing up the market. So, you might build a car wash, somebody builds 2 miles from you, you're going to start sharing, those customers that maybe we're going to your wash. So the margins, when I was doing it, the margins were probably 50%. So, we were really fortunate. We had very high volume car washes. We did in the neighborhood of about 300,000 cars per wash at our 2 locations down here where I live. And, the margins were probably 50%. So, which is, we were really fortunate to have the volume, have a really good, strong, unlimited customer base. We had about 12,000 customers between the 2 washes. And we made a lot of money, and we sold them for a lot of money a couple of years ago, which was great.
Yeah, that's awesome, David. And want to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor. When we get back, I want to ask you, what's the best location for a car wash?
This episode of Winning on Main Street is brought to you by Thryv, the end-to-end client experience platform that includes everything small business owners need to meet their customers' expectations. Thryv's award-winning and fully mobile interface delivers technology previously reserved for big business to the fingertips of small business owners nationwide. Thryv's built specifically for small business, but there's nothing small about what it can do. Thryv handles your entire customer experience, helping business owners reach more customers, stay organized, get paid faster, and generate online reviews, all from a single device or screen. To learn more about Thryv, visit winningonmainstreet.com and click on Get a Demo. When it comes to software to run your business, there's no comparison. Check out Thryv today.
Yeah. So when you look at a destination for a car wash or a location for a car wash, I assume what you're looking for is a lot of people and not a lot of car washes to compete with, right? Like, you want density available to you. Is there a magic number that you look for? Like, how many people do you want who are not being served by another car wash?
Yeah, there are some schools of thought that are now coming out, like the CVS Walgreens factor, that if you have a Walgreens and you're a CVS guy, you want to put that CVS real close to the Walgreens. There are guys out there that really think that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but there are a lot of people that are smarter than me that think that. So if you can cluster car washes together, people think that. When I started back in the mid 2000s, you wanted to have a couple things. You wanted to have a lot of traffic counts. So you wanted to look at your traffic counts that went by you. You cared on what side of the street you were on. So you wanted to be on the going home side of traffic rather than the going to work traffic, because people are always late going to work. And the last thing they think about is washing their car. So you want those factors. I like density. So I was always look at the demographics and try to figure out what my 3 mile and my 5 mile density look like. You want to be visible. So sometimes people build car washes behind another building and you can't see them from the main road.
Yeah.
So you want visibility and you want it easy to get in and easy to get out. Now, for all that, I can come up with 10 exceptions where somebody built a car wash behind a supermarket, or somebody built a car wash that's really difficult to get to, or somebody built it in a very small town and they're drawing from 30 or 50 miles and they're washing a ton of cars. So there's lots of different exceptions to those rules. The other thing that people are doing now when they're building multiple car washes, there are some strategies out there that are looking for B and C sites, which are less expensive. They're building smaller tunnels, but they're putting in 8 to 10 to 15 car washes in a town, and they're looking for that network effect. So once you become a limited club member, you're going to go seek out that car wash. It's not going to be that impulse purchase that it used to be.
Interesting. Now, just switching gears slightly. So you got out of the car wash business yourself, sold your business, and opened up Begin Insights, right? Which is your consulting business about the car wash industry, helping other people, either investors or operators, into the car wash business. Tell us about the Begin Insights.
Yeah. So I created 2 companies. One's Begin Insights, which was my personal consulting. And here recently, I created another one called Car Wash OS. which we're actually trying to create programs for new investors. So we'll help them everything from, hold their hand for the first six months before opening. We kind of hold their hand during the grand opening. And then we have a lot of aftercare programs where we spend 6 to 12 months with them afterwards. And that's the thing that I realized, and I was terrible at when I first opened the car wash, was you have to be really good operationally. So you have to really have your processes and procedures and your standard and your training and all these things down. Because if you don't, and you think, well, I'll just open the car wash and how hard can it be, which was kind of the way I thought about it for years. It becomes very difficult to run if you don't have those standards, you don't have those processes and procedures. And so from my standpoint, it was very important to develop those types of things. But people getting in the industry, they don't like a lot of the people when I got in the early mid 2000s, these were, people who were engineers. They loved car washing for car washing's sake. They loved tweaking an equipment. They like, say, if I put this equipment here versus over there, it'll make a difference on how the car gets washed. And there was a lot of people who were very interested in car washing. But here recently, you get people who want to invest. So you got a big pool of people who just want to invest in car washing. They don't care about car washing. They don't care how it works. So those are the people that really need the help on how do you develop good operational habits as you run your car wash so that if people leave, it's not a big deal if your site manager leaves and you got to hire a new site manager. You've already got your standards, your processes and procedures in place. And so it kind of became a passion of mine to say, how can we help car washes operate really well? Because there is a big difference between car washes that operate well and car washes that don't. And, you want to maximize your yield when you make such an investment in this type of business. And I believe good process and procedures help you do that.
Yeah, it seems like a business that would scale very well, that if you're a smart operator or owner, that between the branding you need to do and all those systems and processes you talked about, and some of these other things like introducing the automated pay and the different programs you mentioned, the loyalty, that it could be a really good business from a scale perspective and might attract somebody who wants to operate not just a single site, but many sites.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly right. When I first started, people, if you had 5 car washes, you were a mogul. But now if you have less than 10 or 15, people are wondering what's wrong with you. So yeah, I think people are realizing this is a very scalable business, and everybody out there is not talking about doing 1 or 2. They're talking about doing many, many car washes. And so it's almost an arms race to see who can get the car washes up and going, first. Of course, it's getting more difficult to build. Regional building departments and cities are making it more and more difficult to build. But the people that have the fortitude to get through that, I think will win at the end of the day.
Are there any brand names in the car wash industry? Is there any brands that anybody would know?
Yeah, there are. There's a car wash brand called Mr. Car Wash, and they just actually were the first independent car wash company to go public. They went public maybe 2 months ago. So Mr. Car Wash probably has about 800 units. There's another car wash chain called Take 5 Car Wash. It's being branded under Take 5, but it's owned by a company called Driven Brands, which is a public company, and they own Mighty mufflers and some other automotive service type of companies out there. So they're big. There's a company out of Utah called Quick Whack Car Wash, which is building quite a few across the nation. And then it kind of, there's maybe 3 or 4 or 5 big ones, and then it goes down to people that own maybe 60 units or 75 units, and then there's quite a few people that own under 50 units. So it's not a brand name. It's a brand name situation if you've got multiple stores in the same town, but it's not like Tide or some of these other brands that you're gonna if you're on vacation, you're gonna use that brand. You're not gonna go seek out a Mr. Car Wash if you're on vacation or something like that. So it is very much a localized type of thing. It's not a nationwide type of name recognition advantage.
Right, got it. We don't have that much time left, so I wanted to just hit on a couple other points real quick. I know you're partners with Henry Lopez. Many of our listeners know Henry from his popular podcast, The How of Business. And I don't know if I should say his podcast or your podcast, because you guys are kind of partners on it, but Henry's the voice we typically hear.
Henry's been doing it for years, and I'm not sure why he still calls me a co-host. I appreciate it, but yeah, it's pretty much Henry's podcast.
Okay. Well, that's a great podcast, and Henry's a terrific host. So
Sure yeah,
I did hear you on that show.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about the personal side of David Begin. I know you like to spend time with your family, cycle, and fly a plane. So tell us about, how'd you get into flying a plane?
Yeah, so I've always been a small airplane pilot. I got my license in high school for some reason. It was kind of an interesting thing. So I got it right around the time I graduated from high school. And I flew a little bit in college, but then my dad found out I was spending money on flying and not spending it on books. So he put an end to that, and kind of went dormant for a while. And then in the 1990s, I actually flew hot air balloons for about 10 years, which was interesting, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we went to the Albuquerque Festival, and we came up to Colorado Springs, which where we live now, and kind of fell in love with the town, and we moved here. So, and then I kind of transitioned from hot air balloons to owning my own airplanes. And so now I'm on my third airplane, I think. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a great tool for travel. We kind of upgraded our plane after we sold the businesses to one that has a little bit more capability to it. And so we're kind of using it for travel, and I'm excited to use it for business travel. But there's nothing better than getting you on your own plane. It doesn't matter how big the plane is. It can be a Gulfstream, or it can be a small plane, but just be able to get in the plane when you want to, fly where you want to, and then go home when you're ready to go home. So, if you're a business person, and you're thinking about, if you have to travel quite a bit, you don't want to make like 1,500 to 2,000 mile journeys in the type of aircraft that we have. But if you're making 500 to 1,000 mile trips, sometimes it's a little faster and better to kind of get you where you want to go in your own airplane.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
So what's next for David Begin? Is it building the insights business? Are you going to go back into the car wash business? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I think I'm going to sit on the sidelines for a while just to kind of see what happens, because it's pretty frothy right now. And typically, I always said, there's always going to be an equal and opposite reaction to what's happening today. So there might be some buying opportunities in 3 to 5 years, but really focusing on the car wash OS part of the business. And, also coaching other business owners. I like coaching other business owners, and I have a passion for people who kind of made an exit of their business, try to figure out what's next. So I became a certified life coach a couple of years ago. And I do talk to people about what's next. How do you figure out what's next, especially if you've had a business exit? Because it was a pretty abrupt ending for me. And I thought I was prepared for it, but I wasn't prepared for it. And you go through a lot of, what am I doing now? What should I be doing? The excitement of running a business, you don't have that anymore. So the analogy somebody used for me is like, well, you used to play in the NBA and now you're retired from the NBA. And I said, well, that makes a lot of sense, because I can imagine that athletes have the same issues, when they quit their job, of playing basketball or baseball. And all of a sudden they're not doing it anymore. So they've got to figure out what's next.
Right. Well, that sounds like you are in a position to help a lot of people, because there's big demand for that now, right? A lot of people trying to figure out how to transition.
That's
we heard
right.
about all this during the pandemic, all these people, you only live once, and, trying to figure out the next stage of their career. So
yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think it's exciting what people are doing. It's very disruptive, obviously, to business owners and companies, but I think it's good people are stepping back and asking what's, how do I want to craft my life so it works for me?
Right. Well, David, this has been tremendous opportunity for us to hear your story, the success you've had in a pretty, I don't know, less than sexy business for most people, car washes. And yet, as we've heard just a couple of weeks ago, we had on a guy called the Laundromat Millionaire, Dave Mentz, who's made it big in the laundromat business. So a little bit like car washes, right? Not something we think about. Doesn't grab the headlines of high tech, but there's money to be made and a lot of innovation going on quietly, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. It was one of those quiet industries. Now it's not so quiet, but yeah, it was a quiet industry, and it's like anything else. If you find a niche that you can be successful in and meet a need, you can make money at it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, David, how do people find you if they want to maybe avail themselves of your coaching opportunities?
Yeah, they can find me at my website is carwashos right now, carwashos.com, or email me at david@carwashos.com, and I'll get back with you.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for stopping by and being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Gordon. I appreciate it. Lots of fun.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell a friend or colleague to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. Until next time, make it a great week.